11 days ago, Pete Sampras was up on that board with 128 men and 128 women. Tonight, there are only 4 players left on each side. And the only person happier than the tournament survivors is the sign painter, who updates each match on the big draw board in the courtyard. Here at the USTA National Tennis Center. Hi again, everybody. I'm Pat O'Brien, along with my late-night co-conspirator, Mary Carrillo, who never takes the Fifth Amendment, by the way. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
How are you? In other sports, they call it playoff intensity. Here it's the quarterfinals at the U.S. Open. The players who are left are turning it up a couple of notches. The prize is now in sight, tantalizingly close, but still a long way to go, Mary.
Yeah, that's very true, but Jim Courier showed an awful lot tonight. You know, last year at this time, he lost early. You know, he had considered taking a whole bunch of time off. 1 year later, he's playing tennis from out of the Jim Courier files, and it's great to see. Tonight, the stadium court belonged to 2 young American veterans who've been quietly advancing in the shadows of Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras. Michael Chang and Jim Courier have a lot in common. They've been playing each other since the juniors. Each has captured the French Open, both looking for a breakthrough here in New York City. Jim Courier was seeded 14 here. Michael Chang seeded 5. But a whole bunch of the guys in the locker room thought that Courier was ready to really have a breakthrough tournament. And he played some fabulous-looking tennis. Even though in the first set, Michael Chang was leading for much of the time. It was Courier who was trying to force the issue. Chang has won 5 of their last 6 meetings, but they've never met in a Grand Slam. 5-all first set. Chang had 4 set points in the opener. And Courier just kept coming back. And I think the book was that Chang would be better prepared than Jim for this match. Michael Chang likes a good long match, and he loves the hard courts, just as Jim does. In set 2, again, Chang had the lead. But he was making an awful lot of unusual plays. I mean, he would go for a nice big swing like that and make it, but he was missing a lot as well. He was serving under 50% the whole night, which really hurt him. He was giving Courier a look at a lot of second serves, and Courier was teeing off on some of them. Now, that's his money shot, his big forehand. And watch what he does off of this forehand. You know, watching Jim Courier this last couple of weeks certainly has not been in the spotlight. Do you think he likes that? Well, I think he's been a little bit underappreciated, frankly, yeah. Pat. I mean, I think he doesn't like that too much. He's taking himself very seriously now, and he should. I always talk about the swagger back in his swing. Again, in that set, Chang served for it, but had 4 unforced errors, 2 double faults at key moments. And now, Courier, who was down in both sets, was up 2 sets and just kept it going in the third. The problem, of course, is that Chang is such a fighter. And Courier said going into this match, nobody will stay with you for the whole match like Chang. And he did keep it up. This effort. I mean, down 2 sets, most guys kind of late at night, they'd figure, well, it's not my day, but he kept fighting for it. He served for this third set at 5-3 and had 4 unforced errors. Got no first serves in. It was just a terrific display by Jim Courier. It's almost impossible to beat a guy like Michael Chang in 3 straight sets in the 3 out of 5 set match, and Courier did it. After this match, he came in and sat down with Mary, talk up his big night on the stadium.
3 times. I beat him in the middle time, and you know, I had been up a set and a break in the other 2 matches, you know, so I was just close. I just didn't quite have the confidence to close the door on him, and tonight I was pretty determined that you know, if I got in that position again, I was going to just keep hitting the crap out of the ball, and if it didn't go in, it didn't go in, but you know, playing tennis, it doesn't work for me. Now you have to worry about Pete Sampras. He's got a pretty good hard court record against you, 9-1. Yeah. One of the best matches of 1995, one of the best I've ever seen was the one you put together against Pete at the Australian Open. Australia, yeah, that was a great match. hopefully we'll be able to you know, duplicate the quality of tennis, but I'd like to change that result.
It's going to be a war, both semis.
It should be good. It should be good. I'm hoping that I'm going to be playing the first semi both times I've been in the semifinals here. I've had the second semi, which is I think, a huge disadvantage with a Sunday final. So I'm thinking Andre's going to get the feature match. Come on, CBS.
You know, the former #1 player in the world showing some of his old ways out there.
That's exactly right. At the Australian Open, I mean, that's one of the famous matches because Courier was well up. Pete Sampras broke down because he just couldn't take the fact that his coach, Tim Gullickson, was in pain. But Sampras was able to ace his way through his tears and win that match. I think this will be different, though. I still think give the edge to Sampras, but Courier is swinging away again. He's really going to go after him, and that could be a great-looking semi.
Sampras is next for him. We come back here. We'll have the Sampras story today at the U.S. Open. A little later, a look back at Arthur Ashe, our friend. Stay tuned. There's much more here on Late Night. This July, Pete Sampras became the first American to win 3 straight Wimbledon men's singles titles. And what do you do for an encore to a three-peat? You try to become the first to win Wimbledon and the U.S. Open in the same summer since Johnny Mack 11 years ago. Today, Sampras took another step in that direction, Mary, against doubles specialist Byron Black of Zimbabwe.
Black was having the best tournament of his whole career. He had beaten the #9 seed Enqvist of Sweden, who's a very good hard courter, and the #8 seed Michael Chang, who has a serve and volley game not unlike Sampras's. But Pete Sampras came out looking pretty good.
Black's the lowest ranked player still in the draw at this point.
He's got an excellent return game. Very clever, 2 hands off of both sides, but he's got limited reach, and Sampras was able to exploit that well. From 5-2, Byron Black held and broke and made a nice-looking comeback and made this first set a little too interesting for Sampras' sake.
What's going through Byron Black's mind here? Number 70 in the world, you know, out there in the stadium,
yeah.
Pete Sampras.
He was just trying to hang with him, as he said later, but Sampras separated himself from Black in this tiebreak. And once that first set was secured for Sampras, he never looked back.
Sampras was below 500 in tiebreaks coming into this match.
That's not a good record for a guy like Pete Sampras. He's really going to have to work on that because in the last couple of rounds of the U.S. Open, very often things get decided by a tiebreak.
For Black, a long way from playing tennis in his bare feet on his father's avocado plantation. Long ways.
But again, Sampras came up with it when he really had to. His serve was just so big. And he ended the second set with his 17th ace of the day.
Mary, your take on Pete this time around?
He looked pretty good today. Again, he wasn't going to be too troubled, I feel, by Byron Black's game, but he will still have to step it up a little bit, I feel. And he's going to have to serve very, very... If he can take care of his serve, he can win this thing again.
Afterwards, you talked about being up 2 sets and what happened to Agassi.
Once you're up 2 sets, that's a time where you really want to get on top of these guys. You don't want to take anything for granted out there. I know I watched Quarter and Agassi play yesterday, and that was just the strangest match I've ever seen. And I really buckled down and played a good 3rd set.
And now he faces his old friend, or new friend, and still friend, Jim Courier.
Serves quite big, backs it up with some huge ground. He's a quick mover. He fights hard. He's in great shape. So that's a match where you can't let up at all. Once you let up against Jim, he's going to walk right in the door.
Got our Final Four, Mary, and it's a powerhouse lineup for the Super Saturday semifinals.
An overwhelming lead for Sampras, as you can see, and a lot of those have been decided on a hard court. Again, Sampras should have a better hard court game because he's got that big serve. And the big problem I feel for Jim Courier will be trying to hold his own serve, you know, because it'll be very much pressured if Pete can serve well enough. But if Pete, you know, if he's in and out with his serve, you got to like the way Courier is fighting.
What about the other half of the draw?
Agassi Becker, that's just a great-looking semi. I mean, they played a wonderful Wimbledon match won by Boris Becker, and he'd been losing to Agassi for 5 years. So, I mean, I think now that it's on a hard court, you have to like Agassi a little bit more than Agassi on grass. But Boris Becker's taking himself very seriously. That could go the distance.
If you're a tennis fan, you aren't doing anything Saturday.
You might want to watch some tennis.
We'll be back to show you the first champions of this U.S. Open, and we'll preview tomorrow's women's semifinals when Late Night rolls on from Flushing Meadows in a moment. Welcome back to the U.S. Open, where for the first time since 1989, we have an All-American mixed doubles champions. Unseeded Matt Lucena and Meredith McGrath upset the Wimbledon mixed doubles finalists Gigi Fernandez and Cyril Suk. Straight sets, 4-4. They were asked how they got together, and Matt said, well, I was supposed to play with Patty Fendick, but she had an operation on both her knees. And Meredith said, I was supposed to play with Rick Leach, but he never called me back, so we are stuck with each other. Might have been a little funnier when they said it, but that's the way it is. Well, 'twas the night before the women's semifinals, and where was Monica Seles presenting an MTV award?
The fans here sure love you.
And where was Conchita Martinez today? Hanging around in Central Park with our own Andrea Joyce.
It was an odd sight, even for New York. Beach volleyball right in the middle of Central Park. A game featuring an unlikely participant. Conchita Martinez, the hottest player on the women's tour this summer, and now a semi-finalist at the U.S. Open.
You know, that's my first chance to have fun, and, you know, what a better sport than beach volleyball.
So does it help you to relax then, to get away from the tennis court?
I'll do it because it's fun. You know, I have fun doing it, and, you know, I laugh a lot, and, you know, it's just fun. I can be with my friends and just have a nice time.
So you made the semis of all 4 Grand Slams now. What's different for you this year?
It has everything to do, mental and in my game. I mean, I'm working on things of being more aggressive and, you know, keeping myself fit and also playing tournaments and getting to the finals or winning. You know, they get you fit. So, you know, I'm feeling pretty good out there.
You won Wimbledon in 1994. How important was that victory for you?
I just had a great attitude there, and, you know, I was ready to win, I think, and, you know, it got me a lot of confidence thinking that I could do it again, not only in Wimbledon, but in the other Grand Slams.
Monica's been playing so well. Do you see a weakness there? Is she beatable?
Well, I think she's beatable. I mean, you know, she's camped very strong, but I think she's beatable. Nobody's unbeatable in this life.
What would it mean to you to win the U.S. Open?
Right now, being the semifinals, it means a lot to me already. And, you know, if I could be in the finals, I mean, I'll be so happy. But, you know, it's great.
So if you win the whole thing, you'll be the happiest person in New York.
You could say that, yeah.
Well, what does it take to beat Monica?
Oh, boy. She's a very good hardcourt player, Conchita Martinez. She's won 4 titles. I mean, she's very, very strong this year on hard. But I'm just not sure what she can do to Monica Seles. Apart from just trying to yank her off the court, she's going to really have to be very patient, still stay aggressive, and try to get Monica Seles out of her hitting zone. I feel that it could be a good match. It could be, I feel it, for some reason, it could be one very good close set. But her problem, Conchita Martinez, when she gets to the semis of these Grand Slams, she doesn't start quickly enough. She's going to have to stay with her right from the start to make it a good match.
What's Gabby have to do to beat Steffi? That's another old boy, huh?
Yeah, no kidding. That's all about the aggressiveness of Steffi Graf and the defensive play of Sabatini. I mean, that's Graf's to win or lose. If she misses too much, then Sabatini's in the final. But I think she'll get in the final. Graf.
All right, we'll be back with more here on Late Night after the commercial and this word from your very own and yours local station. Stay with us. We all loved ever since he left us prematurely. Arthur Ashe remains in spirit an integral part of the U.S. Open experience. Arthur's untimely death 4 years ago also robbed us of a commodity that is becoming ever more rare, the role model and genuine American sports hero. You look at the landscape of what sports is all about today, and you really begin to miss Arthur Robert Ashe Jr. You glance around at the modern-day athlete and see all the glitz and the money and the attention, and you begin to wonder, what's this about? And you really begin to miss Arthur Robert Ashe Jr. Arthur was taken early by something he couldn't control, and that's ironic in that he lived his life in such a way so that Arthur Ashe was in charge, not somebody else. He used to say that he wanted to be seen as fair and honest, trustworthy, kind, calm, and polite. And wouldn't you know it, in his young life, he succeeded. In death, we look back not on the tennis, which was great, but on the man who was greater. We look back at the convictions, and you make that a strong word, the convictions of this man who took on his opponents as if life were one long match point. He didn't always win, but he never lost. Because by adding his fair and honest and trustworthy name to a cause, the cause became bigger. And if it was something that needed to be corrected, Arthur Ashe Jr. always made things a little bit better. A thrill seeker, yes, but here were his two biggest thrills. Hearing his daughter read a book for the first time and having a little black boy in South Africa follow him around and finally say to him, "Mr. Ashe, you're the first truly free black person I've ever seen." Freedom was not just another word for Arthur, nor was life. Knowing that you were going to die early must be an awful burden to bear, but in Arthur's case, he turned it into a positive. And in his final days, he properly and politely and calmly said goodbye. In his book, Days of Grace, he wrote a touching letter to his daughter, Camera. He wrote, "When you stumble and fall and don't know if you can get up again, think of me. I will be watching and smiling and cheering you on." To Camera, we add this postscript. "We loved your father, and we hope to God that greatness and fairness and honesty and integrity wears off because we all feel a little stronger having touched him." Well, the dreams are kept alive, and one of Arthur's living legacies is the Safe Passage Foundation, which uses tennis as the vehicle to help children become productive adults.
This is an example of us using sports to grab their attention and then teach them some of the other values, family and personal and otherwise, that we think would help them later in life.
It was tennis, of course, that enabled Arthur to move out from Richmond, Virginia, and become, well, really a citizen of the world. He was convinced it can do the same for these youngsters and for thousands like them. That's why Arthur's friends support this program.
I've been helping the last few years to try to, keep it going, particularly here at the U.S. Open with these kids that come here and they get a chance to hit a few balls on the courts where the pros practice. These are the practice courts for the U.S. Open.
Improving the kids' tennis is the short-term goal, but Safe Passage hopes to also teach them how to think big and to dare to dream.
I've thought about becoming a professional tennis player, but I really want to go to college because my parents and everything, they're like pushing me to go to college. If I don't become a professional, I'm probably going to think about going into medicine and becoming an obstetrician.
You know, it's amazing, even though we knew he was going to die and he was very sick in those final days, when he did die, the reaction that I got, I'm sure you did too, everybody was still shocked because we didn't want to lose the guy.
Yeah, that's very true. And the thing is, we lost our friend Vitas Gerulaitis about a year ago, too. They both loved tennis so much that it makes those of us who are still around, think more of it. I think that's the important thing.
Two very special guys, and we miss them both. Tomorrow.